Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
It is January 30th, 2018, and it is cold and flu season. And so many people in my surrounding community are getting the flu. In the stores, I see them. I see people everywhere talking about how they're getting this flu. And this flu this season is pretty bad. And I have something I want to tell you guys I haven't told anybody else. And a few months ago, I decided I was going to do an experiment on myself. And I love these cultured foods because I never want to ever stop eating them because they bring so much wellness to my body. But I've been doing it for so long now that I'm accustomed to wellness. And so for 2 months, I decided I was going to quit eating my cultured foods and see what happened. Well, that was kind of a big mistake. But anyway, let me tell you what happened. It was very interesting. For the first month, nothing much happened. It was okay. I was pretty good. Not too much happened. And then in the second month, I started having trouble after I'd eat. I'd get really, really bloated. And things started bothering me that hadn't bothered me before. I got indigestion. I got the worst indigestion of my life. And it was horrible. And that was one of the reasons I stopped the experiment because the indigestion was so bad. But that wasn't the only reason. And I started having other symptoms too. The biggest symptom I got the flu. I haven't had the flu forever. And it was brutal, guys. It was so bad. I can remember thinking, I'm going to call my brother-in-law, who's a doctor, who's an MD, and have him put me to sleep because I don't want to live like this. This is awful. It was so bad. I had a high fever. I remember walking around the house telling myself, this is just because I stopped eating my cultured food. It's going to go away. And it lasted over it was 3 days, and then it went into a week, and then I really didn't feel it myself for 2 weeks. And I didn't even really feel like eating anything, and it was really the reason I stopped the experiment because I got so sick. And the other reason I stopped the experiment was I started to gain weight. I started getting, I was getting bloated and indigestion, but I started gaining weight, and I was like, okay, we're done with this. And then the next day I got the flu, and it was over for me. I went into my what I call my nuclear blast off regimen, and I literally had nothing but kefir for probably 3 days because I couldn't eat anything. I didn't feel good. I had a fever because of the flu. And I drank a lot of cultured vegetable juice, and I had some kombucha too, but mostly it was just a lot of kefir. It was like 3 or 4 cups. Well, by the time that regimen was over and I was done with the flu, which, by the way, I don't know how people live when they get the flu. It's horrible. It's so bad. And it's been so long since I've had a case like that. I never want to do that again. I mean, I was sending my, one of the guys that works with me, Chris, I was sending him, he was checking in with me every day to see how I was and talking about work stuff that we had to do. And I was sending him skulls in my text message and he was like, oh no, because I was so sick. And what happened was the kefir really, the indigestion immediately went away when I started drinking kefir within a day. And guys, that was awful, by the way. And here's the deal with that. If you have indigestion, we need to do a show on that. And I need to do a blog about it too, because there's a bacteria in your gut. And that helps to control your indigestion. It helps your digestion. But if you're missing that bacteria, you can get horrible acid reflux, which is what happened to me. But it had been so long since I'd had that it was shocking to me that came back. So it didn't just come back. It came back like 10 times worse than I'd had it before. And one of the things I like about my body is that it will not let me go back to habits that it does not like. If there were things that I did before, like for instance, I don't know if you've listened to my blogs or my radio shows or on Kombucha. I used to be an avid Diet Coke drinker, and Kombucha helped me get off of that. When I went back to it, I got so dizzy. I had neurological problems. I had all these things that were related to the aspartame in the Diet Coke. And so I really learned a valuable lesson I couldn't go back to the way that I had lived before. And this was a huge one too, because I was literally laying on the couch for a couple of days thinking, I can't work like this. I'm so sick. We literally didn't do much with our business for a couple of weeks because I was a wreck. It was bad. But I learned such a good lesson from that. And I learned what people go through with the flu because it's been so long since I've had a case like that. It was just, I don't get the flu anymore and I feel so good. But that was my 2-month experiment that ended abrupt. Well, it was actually only like a month and a half. I couldn't handle it. And I lost the weight that I gained as soon as I put back all the cultured foods. And people have very different bacteria in their gut when they're obese or compared to people who aren't. There's different shifts in bacteria. And I learned that quickly. Plus, I wasn't digesting my food right anymore. I just felt awful. Emotionally, I was a wreck, partly because I was sick, but I noticed huge changes in me. And I don't think I'm going to do that experiment again. It was bad. And I also learned what these foods have done for me. And here's the deal, guys. You have no idea how great your body is designed to feel. It is magnificent. It is a wonderful creation that is working on your behalf 24 hours a day without your knowledge of all the wonderful things it can do. It keeps me well. And when I realize the power that these foods held for me in these invisible microbes that I cannot see, I'll never go back. It's a fantastic way to live your life to feel good. Because when your body's not working right, when you don't feel good, you don't want to do anything. I wouldn't have a business if I felt bad all the time like that. And that's a testimony to these foods and to the lifestyle that they created in me, because the reason I keep eating them is because they make me feel so great. So let's talk about this flu thing. So if you want flu prevention, like I've had for the last 15 years, you want to keep eating these cultured foods, or you want to begin to eat these cultured foods. Because I was pretty shocked that I still got sick even without them after a month and a half, but I did. So I learned my lesson. I'm not doing it anymore. Well, I wasn't learning a lesson. I was trying to experiment, but I was pretty shocked that I'd get the flu, and I did. But let me tell you why they work. It's not just me saying this. This is anecdotal, but this is really a lot of science behind this too that helps you understand, because when you have wisdom about what you're doing, it makes it easier to continue the lifestyle. Wisdom and knowledge and practice and making it into a habit is just it would be the greatest thing you could do for yourself. I mean, if I don't have kefir every day, or if I don't have some kind of cultured food, and I usually have the 3, which I call the trilogy: kefir, kombucha, and cultured vegetables every day. If I don't at least have one of them, I feel like I haven't brushed my teeth or something. It's like such a part of my life. It's so ingrained in me because I never want to go back to the life I had before I had them. So if you want to know why these work, let me give you some information and some wisdom into that, because it will help you. It'll help you, encourage you to eat them. I'm not talking about changing your entire lifestyle, although I think it's important to learn to eat healthy, eat whole, real foods. But even if you just start adding these foods to your regular diet, it's going to make a big difference for you, like it did for me. Did you know that your body is really designed to fight pathogens? Your body's set up that way. It's super cool. And a virus is something that's wandering around looking for a human host to infect, which is kind of creepy, but it's actually how it works. And when it finds one, especially if it's your body, you have special helpers designed to seek and destroy this invader that's trying to make you their host. And here's where your microbes come in. Okay, remember, you are 100 trillion microbes, okay? That's a lot. And 100 trillion microbes is more than 10 times the cells in your body. And here's where they come in to help you with this foreign invader. Okay, so your white blood cells destroy germs as soon as they detect them in your body. But if a viral infection begins to take hold, they fight back using a powerful defense with T and B cells. These antibodies are special proteins made by B cells, and they bind to a virus to stop it from replicating. And they also label the virus so that the other blood cells know to destroy it. Now, T cells have different roles to play. That's what a B cell does, was what I said prior. They act the T cells act like a warning bell. They like raise the alarm, raise the flag, and when they detect an invading virus. And then your microbes come into this segment too. Certain good bacteria, certain strains of good bacteria in your gut influence the strength of your immune system by increasing the number of T cells. And there are two kinds of T cells. One is killer T cells and one are helper T cells. The killer T cells find and destroy infected cells that have been turned into viruses. And viruses will start making communities inside of you. And the T cells are designed to kill them. But helper T cells, they don't fight the invaders. They just kind of act like a military intelligence system. So they basically what they do is the helper T cell sends out a chemical message inside your body, and it's matched with the killer T cell. So that's alerted, and then that goes after the virus and seeks to destroy it. So you got two kinds, the T and the B cells. One's a informer, and the other is a killer. So having lots of good bacteria in your gut will increase your T cell production and keep communication among all of those cells in your body functioning at a really high optimal level. That's what you want. And signals from these beneficial microbes are essential for keeping all of your immune system running strong so they can seek and destroy viruses or infection, or also just raise your immune system on a daily basis when you feel run down. And so what happened was when I got the flu, I was missing a certain strain of bacteria that I normally have from eating cultured foods. And I don't think I had enough of those T cells running around that helped me. And I did after I got it. I started eating them. But here's the deal with a lot of these cultured foods. A lot of the bacteria, for instance, in kefir, there's 50 different strains of beneficial bacteria in there. But a lot of them are transient. And the same with cultured vegetables and with kombucha. Both of those bacteria in kombucha and cultured vegetables are transient bacteria, which means they don't last in the body very long. So within 2 to 3 days, they're gone because they're not inherently what your body normally has for bacteria. So they're an addition to what you have. So they strengthen your immune system, and they certainly strengthen mine because I just don't get the flu. And I believe it's because of maybe some strains that I'm ingesting that I normally don't have in my body. Most of us have been taking antibiotics, or not most of us, but many people have been taking antibiotics on and off for years, killing the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria, and never really building up the good bacteria in the body that needs to fight these pathogens. And I'm not against antibiotics. I think they're necessary in certain cases, but I think that they're overprescribed. I think we take them too often, and I think that we don't go ahead and then build up the beneficial bacteria again after we've taken them. So I still think that they can be very helpful and actually life-saving in many cases. But I do think that we need to take care of the good bacteria that is mostly keeping us well every day. And having cultured foods in your diet, these probiotic cultured foods that I love so much, give you these probiotics in a much more effective way than, say, supplements. They speed to the parts of the body where they're needed. They don't get killed by the stomach acids as easily. They really work very much. They really work more effectively than supplements because they're designed to do that when you take them with food, and they're stronger. And for instance, in a spoonful of cultured vegetable, they've tested these in labs. I think it was Dr. Mercola who tested it, and then there was another doctor that tested it, and he found there were more probiotics in a spoonful of cultured vegetables than an entire supplement bottle, which is not surprising to me because for years I took probiotics, and I'm not against those either. I think they're good, but I never got the benefits from them that I did from cultured foods, and I didn't know why until many years later. I studied it and really discovered that cultured foods are much more powerful, and I could feel the effects in my body almost immediately, whereas I didn't feel that with probiotics as much. And they're also very expensive, the supplements. So cultured foods they're just food, and they're easy to make and inexpensive, and many of these cultures will last your lifetime if you take care of them. I still have my first kefir grains I ever got, and also my sourdough starter. I have a kombucha starter. All of those I had for years and years, guys, and I just take care of them, and they've lasted me, and I've, you know, I don't know how many years I keep going, that they said they'll last your lifetime if you keep taking care of them. And I am very diligent about my cultures because I'm always making cultured foods. So I've always got kombucha going and kefir, and I've got water kefir going. I got a counter full, but it's a lifestyle for me. It's fun. It's easy. I've got a system. I got it down now. It doesn't take me a huge amount of time because I've kind of gotten into a rhythm with it, and it's just a part of my lifestyle. Kind of like brushing your teeth or, getting dressed every day. It's what I do. And if you have cultured foods in these forms, the way that I make them, they're just delicious. It's just food. So it's not like, you got to take your pills today. It's just something that I make every morning. I have kefir. This morning, let's see, what did I have this morning for kefir? I have a new one that I've been doing. Okay, this is what I did. I took some goat's milk kefir because I'm kind of into goat's milk kefir right now. I kind of switch it up. And so I put a cup of that in a blender. I put a spoonful of peanut butter. I put a whole apple. I didn't even chop it up. I think I chopped it into fours. Stuck that in there. And I think I added some protein powder. I think some pea protein powder. And let's see, so a splash of vanilla. And that was my breakfast this morning. And it's really good. I love that, the taste of the peanut butter with the apple. And that was my breakfast this morning. And I do new ones all the time. I have some faithful ones I do for my family. I made my husband one this morning, and I made him 1 cup of kefir, a couple handfuls of spinach and kale. I put a frozen banana in there. A couple sprigs of mint. He likes mint, and I had some mint on my counter, so I put some of that in there. And then let's see, what else did I put? I put something else in there. I can't remember. I think I put some peanut butter in his too. And that was his breakfast this morning. So, and guys, it's like faster than making other foods that and if you can go to a drive-thru, you can make a smoothie. So it's way easier and way better. It is fast food on the go. And I stick it in a jar, and he was out the door this morning, so I put it in a big mason jar, and he took it with him. And that's what we do. We do this all the time. We do different things all the time. We have breakfast puddings. I make all different kinds of things. But when I'm in a hurry, and today, Mondays are usually a day I'm in a hurry, I just throw them in a blender, and I do it every day. Having these foods every day is a habit. You'll start to notice if you don't have them, like I did. And it doesn't take too long in the beginning. I think I have enough beneficial bacteria in my body from years of doing this that it lasted quite a while before I noticed any difference. It was a month and a half. And I think you'll notice right away when you have them that there's a difference when you have kefir. And I see this on my Facebook page. If you ever, you should really check out my Facebook page, Donna Schwink, Cultured Food Life. And not because I need everybody to like me, but because it will inspire you. And whenever you're trying to do something new, you need encouragement. You need daily encouragement from somebody doing it so that you'll be able to believe in your body's ability to keep you well. And honestly, a lot of what I do is for inspiration because people just need to be encouraged because cultured foods are so new to them that they're scared about it because they're afraid they're going to mess it up. And the cool thing is cultured foods are some of the safest foods to eat on the planet. They're even safer than raw foods because the beneficial bacteria in these cultured foods make the foods stay safe and keep them safe because there's so much good bacteria in there. And you can't get botulism. It's a scientific impossibility because botulism cannot thrive in an environment where all this good bacteria is. And it's wonderfully safe to make. And I have a lot of documentation on this too. Now, I'm not just the only one saying this, but even the U.S. government has said that fermented foods are some of the safest foods to eat. And if you want to go read about that, go to my website at culturedfoodlife.com and go to the blog that says, or type into the search bar, can cultured foods hurt me? And you can read that article, and that will help you a lot. So if you do get sick with the flu, you're going to need some of these cultured foods like I do to get better. Now, I don't necessarily recommend you do what I did, where I call the nuclear blast off, but you can. But I basically bombarded my body with so much good bacteria that it had to take care of me. So it did. Now, in the beginning, when you're starting out, you might want to go more slowly, because as you start ingesting probiotic foods, you're going to be ingesting billions of good bacteria, and your body's going to want to clean house. So if you've got candida, if you've got some pathogens in there, it's going to want to go in because it's going to have the numbers now. It's going to have lots of numbers and strength. It's like a mighty army, and it's going to want to remove those. And so as those harmful bacteria get removed from the body, they can release toxins and make you feel kind of crummy for a while. So more than likely, it would be better for you to go slowly and to do it more slowly till you adjust to it. One of the cultured foods I love for any kind of, especially if you have any kind of stomach problems, like let's say you get a stomach virus or something, and I've seen this so many, many, many times, not only just with my own family, extended family, but with all the people that I work with on my website. Cultured vegetables are a godsend. They work like magic. And you don't have to believe me, you just have to try them. But you got to have a jar in your fridge to be able to try them when you get food poisoning or some kind of a really bad stomach ache or stomach distress or a virus. You need to have a jar in your fridge, and it works incredibly well for stomach ailments. And on several occasions, I have used the cultured vegetable juice. I don't necessarily eat the vegetables because nobody wants to eat vegetables when they're sick. But the juice to get rid of all kinds of pathogens or viruses in the body, it's so effective, and you just need a few spoonfuls. I was shocked the first time I saw this happen. When my kids came down with some kind of a bug in the stomach, and they were, sick, and they were throwing up or had diarrhea, I would just give them small sips of juice from cultured vegetables. I mean, tiny sips, something they could keep down, because sometimes they couldn't even keep down water. And I bet I've seen this happen so many times. I'd watch a couple hours later, and the vomiting and diarrhea would stop, the stomach cramps. It has knocked out food poisoning in me. That was one of the first things it did for me. I couldn't believe how effective it was for that. And recently, I want to tell you about this. I did not know this, but I think my dogs, after I got the flu, I think my dogs got it, because they kept me up. It was after, I can't remember how long it was after I had it, but my dog was up all night long, every 2 hours, wanting to go to the bathroom, throwing up with diarrhea. And I was like, good Lord, what is going on? I was up all night for 2 nights. He wouldn't eat anything. I couldn't get anything down. Finally, I got some kefir, put it on my finger, and he would lick it off. And then I did it again. I sat on the couch with him. I said, I've got to get some kefir in him, because first of all, I didn't want to be up all night again. And so I sat on the couch and would dip it in there. He wouldn't drink it out of the bowl because he didn't feel well, but he would lick it off my finger. And the next day he was perfectly fine. Well, then about a week later, my other dog got this, and I didn't even know dogs could get flus. I'm assuming that's what it was, because it was something else a neighbor had told me about. And he did the same thing. He was up every 2 hours, throwing up with diarrhea. And so the next day I sat on the couch with him and put it on my finger and let him lick it off and got it in. And then the next day he was fine. So works on animals wonderfully. And I love that about cultured foods, because kefir is wonderful for dogs. I've got all kinds of stories on my Lives Touch page at culturedfoodlife.com with how well it's helped animals. And I don't give the dogs the cultured vegetable juice just because they won't eat it. And kefir seems to take care of the problems with them. So I give it to them. Kefir has so many good bacteria. It's 50 plus bacteria in the homemade versions. The stuff at the store doesn't have as many. And I'm not really sure how many strains are in some of them. Some of them only had like 7, but they did have some of the kefir strains in there. But I never found as many benefits from the ones at the store, because you never know how long they've been sitting on store shelves, or actually how they're manufactured, I still think there's a lot of good ones out there. But if you really want the best bang for your buck, you need to make it yourself. And it's so easy, guys. You're basically just putting some kind of milk, whether it's non-dairy, and you can do coconut, and you can do almond milk, or you can do goat's milk, you can do cow's milk, and you put it on the counter in a jar. I usually use a quart jar. And you can either use kefir grains, which are little and they're not grains, actually grains. They're not related to the grain family. They just look like little balls of cauliflower. They're kind of rubbery. And you place that in the milk and it ferments in 24 hours. Or you can use a product I have called Easy Kefir, which is just a powder package, which is made from kefir grains. And you just pour that into the jar and let it sit for 24 hours on your counter. And the next day you have kefir in both cases. And they're both super easy. There's both, and you can make many batches from Easy Kefir. You can take a fourth a cup from that batch and make another batch. Or with the grains will last forever if you take care of them. So they both work great. But kefir is, okay, it's my favorite of all the foods, I think. Although I change this a lot. I love all the foods, so I hate picking favorites. But it has the most benefits. And it's the thing that it was the first cultured food I found that changed my life so dramatically. And because it has so many beneficial bacteria in it, it's very, very effective for fighting any kind of cold or flu virus. I've even sniffed it up my nose in a neti pot filled with water and salt. Well, actually, my daughter did that because we first started cultured food. She would have terrible sinus infections. And it was one of the reasons I started doing cultured foods. And a lot of sinus infections are caused by yeast, candida yeast. And so she put it in a neti pot, sniffed up her nose, and it got rid of her sinus infection. And I've had several letters where people have told me the same thing. So don't have to do it that way, but it was quite effective for us and for several other people who had written me letters about it. I even had a caller call in and tell me that she used cultured vegetable juice and swapped it up her nose with a Q-tip. And I have actually done this, and actually this does work, okay? I actually did kimchi, so it was probably not the best choice because it was super spicy, but it did clear your nose. It does clear your nose if you've got the flu, a stuffy nose. I mean, my nose was running like a sieve. I was going to put this cultured foods in any way I could. So I actually know that actually does work. Now my nose ran for like an hour, but I think that was a good thing. Some lady told me on one of my radio shows that she had done this and it got rid of a 6-month sinus infection she'd been struggling with. So I really encourage you to try cultured vegetable juice if you've got any kind of stomach ailment, and kefir. It's just wonderful but I don't know if you can handle that if you've got a stomach problem. But if you don't have one, if you're just struggling with a cold or a flu, that's a great one too, just to have kefir. Make yourself a smoothie and try to have at least, in the beginning, I would start off with like a fourth of a cup. I drink about 2 cups a day, but in the beginning, you should start out more slowly because you could get a die-off from some of the harmful pathogens in your body. So start out slowly, then build up from there, and then you won't be getting the flu anymore. Now, kombucha is another thing I want to talk about. It is a wonderful probiotic drink and something that you really should consider drinking daily if you have a cold or flu, and especially if you want prevention. The yeast that's in kombucha, and I talk about this a lot, Saccharomyces boulardii, is wonderful, and it can't be killed by antibiotics because it's a probiotic yeast. And it's very strong. It doesn't last forever in the body, but it's one of the most researched probiotic of all the supplements in the world. They've used it to treat so many ailments in hospitals. And this is this particular strain I was talking about. And they've used it for C. diff, acute diarrhea, antibiotic-associated diarrhea in hospitals. And they've even used it for some forms of parasites that have caused diarrhea and gastrointestinal disorders in general. It's so anti-inflammatory and doesn't have the anti-toxic effects of drugs. You're going to get it's a wonderful drink. It's a bubbly, really refreshing drink. But you can also take this bacteria that's in kombucha. They have it in tablets called Florastor. And it works very effectively because it's a very good probiotic. But it actually is a lot cheaper to drink kombucha because it's in there too. It's kind of cool how it works. It neutralizes toxins that are produced by the harmful pathogens, and it sends out a signal to the body to reduce the inflammation. And interestingly enough, Saccharomyces boulardii is so interesting how it works because boulardii, this type of probiotic yeast acts like a decoy to harmful pathogens. So it pretends to be something else. And so it will act like it's a pathogen, and then it attracts the other pathogens to it and binds with them, and then keeps them from attaching to the intestinal walls and doing damage to your body. That's one of the ways that it works. So it's pretty cool. But it does not last very long in the body, a couple of days, 2-3 days. And then you need this to take it again. And I've actually seen this do the same thing with my daughter. It really, when she was having IBS problems when we first started Cultured Foods, she'd have 4 to 8 ounces of kombucha at dinner and at lunch. And that made a huge difference. And she noticed a difference. So these foods that I talked about, the kefir, kombucha, and cultured vegetables, they're what I call the trilogy. I think they're fantastic because there is nothing that has kept me healthy like these foods have for the last 15, 16 years. And I want that for you because it's a wonderful way to live your life. And it teaches you how to live your life, about things to eat, things to add to your life, things to enjoy. And because when you don't feel good, guys, you can't live your life. It's just it's just awful. And when you have the ability to know how to have something to reach for when you need help, just like I did. When I reached for these foods, they came through every time. It's just amazing. I love them. I think they're terrific, and you won't know or experience the benefits unless you try them. So head on out to the store if you want to just pick up a bottle of kombucha and give it a try. Just try it. You don't have to make it. Just try it. See how you like it. You can even buy kefir. You can buy cultured vegetables at the health food stores now. At least do that. And then when you want to start making them, head on over to my site at culturedfoodlife.com and you can get a getting started guide free. It's ebook and everything's free on my site on how to make all these foods. And you'll get my weekly emails too, which I encourage you to do because you need to be inspired and you need inspiration and you need recipes and you need help. And it's my way of connecting with you to help you because whenever you're doing something new, you need to hang around with that person to get you started and get you going. And then once you're off and running, then you're doing great. But in the beginning, I really encourage you to do that because it will help you. And I don't bombard you with emails because I don't like that. In this day and age, you sign up for something, you get 5 emails a day from people. I don't do that. I usually just do once a week. And just to keep everybody motivated and to show you the new things I'm learning new things all the time. I thought I'd learned everything there was for a while, but boy, I'm learning how to make, I've got an almond kefir recipe when I learned how to make it thick like Greek yogurt. And because the non-dairy milks tend to be really thin. And I pass that on to you. I share it with you because I want you to make it because I know if you eat it, it'll change your life. So I'm always thinking of ways to try to help you. I want you to stay well, and you can have a flu shot in a jar. It's great, guys. It's worked for me and for the last 15 years. And the proof is in the pudding, and you won't know till you try it. So have a wonderful week. Maybe head on over to the health food store and pick you up with some kombucha or kefir cultured vegetables and see if you like them. And then come on over to my site and I'll help you make them at home. You'll have lots of fun making them. I got lots of help for you. And let's not worry about the flu anymore. It's not worth it. It's no way to live your life. Nobody needs to go down for a week or 2 with the flu. It's not necessary. And there's a better way than to have, no better way to have this than to have them in probiotic cultured foods that you've already equipped with trillions of bacteria inside of you that are equipped to handle these viruses, take care of you, and make your life one that's healthy and fun to live. So have a great week, guys. Thanks for listening. And I hope you'll tune in every Tuesday for more tips because I love this stuff. It means the world to me. And it means the world to me that you're taking time out of your day to listen to me. So you have a good one.